So this friend of mine, he was driving erratically, and the cops stopped him. Said, "Sir, you're going to have to take a breathalyzer." He said, "I can't take a breathalyzer." The cop said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, I'm asthmatic, and if I breathe in the breathalyzer, I might have an asthma attack, and you'd be responsible." The cop said, "Well, that's okay. You can take a urine test." He says, "I can't take a urine test." The cop says, "Well, why not?" He says, "Well, I'm diabetic, and if I take a urine test, my insulin might go down, and my blood sugar, and I can't take a urine test." So the cop says, "That's no problem. You can take a blood test." And the guy goes, "Well, I can't take a blood test." The cop says, "Well, why not?" He says, "Well, I'm a hemophiliac. If I take a blood test, I could bleed out. You'd be responsible." And the cop says, "Well, all right, that's no problem." Says, "See that straight line there, that white line? I just want you to walk along that white line." The guy goes, "Well, I can't do that." The cop says, "Why not?" He says, "Because I'm drunk." So a guy walks into a bar. Ow! Okay. Anyway, I went home. My wife said, "Dave, you've got an alcohol problem." I said, "I know. We don't have any." She said, "Where were you? What you been doing? Who were you with? Tell me." I said, "Look, honey, there's only one kind of woman who always knows where her husband is." She said, "Well, what kind of woman is that?" And I said, "A widow." But I'm getting older, you know. I've got amnesia. I've had it as long as I can remember. And I'm also bipolar. I hate that. I hate being bipolar. It's great! Anyway, you know, you get old, you think you're interested in sex. But, you know, us old guys, we're still interested in sex. Doesn't mean we're getting any, but... So one of my friends, he goes into a confessional, and the priest says, you know, he goes, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned, you know." "Well, what'd you do?" He said, "Well, it's kind of a long story, but every day I take the bus. I sit and wait for the bus, and there's always this pretty young girl sitting next to me, and after a while I said hello, and eventually we started talking and saw her every day. And one day I said, "Well, let's go get a cup of coffee." We went get a cup of coffee, went on like that. We had lunch, we had dinner, you know how that goes. And then, you know, what can I say? Eventually we ended up in bed together, you know. And the priest says, "Well, that's terrible. You can't do that. You're much too old. It's not right. She's too young. You can't do that. So I want you to say 50 Hail Marys and light 10 candles." And the guy goes, "Well, I can't do that, Father. I can't do that." The priest goes, "Well, why can't you do that?" He goes, well, because I'm Jewish." The priest gets mad. He goes, "Well, you're Jewish. Why you come here and tell me that?" He goes, "Tell you? I'm telling everybody." Yeah, and then I got another friend. He's rich. And he does have a beautiful girlfriend. He took her out to dinner, expensive restaurant. He had a couple of drinks. He started feeling kind of wistful, you know. And he said to her, he said, "Charlotte," he says, "if I were to lose all my money, would you still love me?" And she takes his hand in hers and she looks in his eyes and she goes, "But of course, Henry. And I'd miss you too." So, yeah. Anyway, so I had this, back in the day, I had this young girlfriend. She called me up. She said, "Come on over, nobody's home." So I rushed over. She was right. There was nobody home. I know, that's an old one. Anyway, I'll finish up with my bat story. There's two bats hanging from a tree. One of them says, "Hey, what's the worst day you had last year?" And the other one says, "Are you kidding? That's the day I had diarrhea." Thank you very much.
Yeah! David Wynette, guys!
Okay, do you want us to do an interview? No? Okay, cool. Because I didn't know what to talk about either. Guys,